Hey everyone, let's talk about Hedges today, which is a tool used to surface hedge fund data from the 13F forms. So this data is updated every quarter. So what happens is 45 days after the quarter ends, hedge funds and institutions have to report their positions from the last quarter, and as soon as they do that, we update our dashboards, which is why it's updated every quarter, and then we show you what's going on the institutional side and the hedge fund side. So this is a really good time because this dashboard actually updated yesterday, so the data came out, and we now know what happened in the last quarter in Q2 of 2022. So let's see if we can find something interesting. Let's see what this dashboard shows, and let's see how to best use it. Alright, so on the top you're seeing the stocks that are present in the most funds. So we have Microsoft at the very top, and it's present in about 3,300 funds. When you're seeing the red and green color, the red color simply means that the funds overall decreased their position in that particular stock. So all the highest market cap stocks actually had funds decrease their positions, which is obviously slightly bearish if you're thinking about it. But then let's see if we can look at the mid market cap. Even sort of the mid market cap stocks that were present in most number of funds, that were present in the most number of funds, all of those stocks had a slightly higher outflow. So most funds actually exited positions than entered for the stocks that were present in most funds. And then we have a couple in the lowest market cap category where there was slightly more inflow than outflow. So when you're seeing like all red, that is a sign that institutions and funds are slightly getting bearish on their largest holdings previously. So this red means obviously since Microsoft is present in more than 3,000 funds, they are now that they're starting to exit, and we are seeing the red color here. That means that although it's present in the most funds, it is still slightly getting a bearish sentiment from these funds because there has been more outflow. So just something to keep in your mind. Then we have the largest changes in shares. So these are the stocks that had the most amount of shares added in percentage terms. So we have EW, where about 500 million shares of that stock were added by some hedge fund. We don't know who yet, but we can go into that in a couple of minutes. And then we have Amazon. So this is a good one because about 3 billion shares. So Amazon, I think, has a float of about 10 billion shares, and about 3 billion shares were actually added this past quarter. What's interesting here is Shop. So this is a stock that I really like. This is a company that I believe in the long run, and I've been meaning to purchase some shares for the next 5 or 10 years. Seeing hedge funds and institutions actually add about 300 million shares of Shop actually gives me conviction that I can build a slightly longer term position as well, and that's how I typically use this hedge fund section. Since these are all long term plays, and we haven't talked much about longer term plays with different tools, this is a tool that actually comes into play when you want to build portfolios, when you want to invest in the long run. Okay, actually, so this is interesting. Energy has been going down, but funds still added position in the last quarter, probably towards the start, and maybe they had exited, but there was still some inflow. Then we have the mid market cap, and similarly we have the lowest market cap. So these are most of the stocks that I know nothing about. I mostly trade highest market caps, but you still get an idea. If you are a small cap trader, then just click on the mid market cap and the lowest market cap, and these are the stocks that are getting the most inflows in terms of shares and in terms of percentage shares by different funds and institutions. Then we have the sector flow. So this is like the green is the positive flow, so like positions bought, shares bought. Red is the negative flow, and again it's the positions that were exited. And then blue is I think just sort of the net flow, which would be the delta between the positive and the negative. So we can see let us see. So we can see that utilities did not. So most of the I think what I'd say is most of the flows from hedge fund institutions were slightly bearish the past quarter, and that is slightly surprising because markets have been turning up since June. So probably we might see more if the markets actually keep going up. If we do have another leg down, then it'll be very telling that hedge funds were still slightly bearish in Q2 2022. But if markets do actually keep rallying, then we might see that funds were actually building bullish positions. But because of how this data is sometimes not sometimes because of how this data is delayed by a good period, sometimes we can miss big moves. So what I actually use this dashboard for is, if I have a thesis and I want to build a big position in a stock such as Shopify, then I'll see how funds are dealing with that stock, and if funds are bullish, then I'd like to start building a position as well. These are some simple charts. So these are simple dashboards that show you the highest shares increase, highest shares decrease. Apple had some outflow. Microsoft had some outflow as well. So these were some stocks that had some outflow. Amazon had a lot of inflow. Shopify had inflow. QQQ had inflow. Things like that. And then we have how highest funds increase. So stocks that were added by the most by the highest number of funds. And then we have the highest stocks inflow and the highest stocks outflow. So these are the number of positions that were opened or closed for different stocks. So Microsoft had about 374 positions opened, but it would probably also have a lot more positions closed, which is why it's red here. The reason we are not seeing it on sort of in the bottom is because the lowest from the top 10 has 460 positions closed. So Microsoft probably came somewhere around 370 and 460, which is why we are not seeing here. But you can see like Nvidia, although there were about 281 positions opened, there were also about 617 positions that were closed. So the actual net flow for this for Nvidia was actually bearish, because about 400 funds more than the funds that entered positions actually exited positions. So just keep that in mind. And then we have some summary stats about different stocks and their shares, how many shares are present in funds, what's the institutional what's the institutional proportion of shares that institutions have, what's the total proportion of shares that institutions have, inflows, outflows, number of funds before, number of funds after, positions open, positions closed. So a lot of really useful information about how funds are dealing with different stocks. So again, I advise looking into this dashboard to build longer term plays, not shorter term plays, because that's where it comes really handy. Alright, so that was about the entire market. Let's see if we can actually dive deeper into different stocks. So we have been talking about Shop. So let's see what's happening with Shop. So sentiment is bullish. That's very good to see. There are about 650 funds. The outflow was very little. So this is good. This is music to my ears, because although Shopify has been going down quite a lot, we can see that the outflow was not that big and the inflow was. So people were like Sands Capital Management, they bought about 23 million shares for Shopify, and we can see a lot of green here. So like, just in summary, if you're seeing a lot of green, that's always a good sign, obviously. If you're not, then that is not. So this is the number of funds, but then this is what we actually like. These big green bars on the money flow chart are what we are interested in, because there was huge outflow the last quarter, but this quarter there was a huge inflow, which means many funds started buying positions into Shop, which is again very good to see, and that seems like the right way to gauge or to use hedge funds positions. Then we can see which funds actually increased positions, which funds exited positions, things like that. So the WCM investment fund, they exited all of their positions. They had about 2 million shares. Now they have none. So they went away. but then we can see all of these funds in adding positions. So that's about how do you actually analyze the stock based on hedge fund positions. Now how do you analyze an entire fund? And so BlackRock, I believe, is the largest fund in the world. They manage, I think, like a couple $1 trillion, and keeping an eye on them is a good way to gauge probably where money should flow or where money is flowing, and it can give you some ideas into the place that you want to build. So really a couple of things that I have in mind, because like this dashboard is very important. So different, we might have, let's see if we have something at the bottom. Yes, so this is the chart that I wanted to open up. Different hedge funds have different returns. Some hedge funds, if they're managing trillions of dollars, they are very risk averse, so they're going to only go into large caps. They're not going to take any risky plays. They're going to stick to their basics, the things that have been making them money, and like that's it. And you can see like the performance have been very consistent. We haven't gone down much quarterly. Sure, there has been a decrease, but there has been a decrease for many, I believe, for many funds. So this point should actually be 2020 till 2022. I'll update that. But this is the chart that you want to be seeing. So you want to be seeing how that fund has been performing lately. And if that fund has been performing well, and if there are higher returns for that fund, then those are the funds that you want to look at if you are a trader. Like if you want to be risk averse, and if you do not want to take on any risk, then just buy S&P and QQQ. But if you want to actually do your own due diligence, find your own plays, invest in the long term, and then also use hedge fund data while doing that, then look for funds that have slightly higher returns and slightly higher volatility as well, and then see which positions they are building, and then see if you want to build a position in those stocks as well. So if we're just talking about BlackRock, they bought a big position in Amazon. NLY, it's something to do with real estate. So looks like they have been buying some positions in real estate, some in energy. Again, good to see. So you can see this trend. So they're buying energy, they were buying real estate. Not much technology here, which is again interesting to see. Let's see what Warren Buffett has been doing. Okay, so really good. So you can see energy. So you see these trends. So energy has been going up for a while. It's down lately, but still overall I think it has been going up, and you can see these positions building. So these funds are managing a lot of money, and they have many smart people. So just keeping an eye on what they're doing. So they were spending a lot of time going into these energy plays. Energy has been down, but let's actually see if these plays pan out even in the future as well. And then they did not really go super big into any positions last quarter, so that's slightly surprising. I would have loved to see some big positions building up, but we don't have anything here. We just skip that, that's fine, and we just go ahead and find some other funds that we think has been doing good, and we look at their positions and we see if those positions make sense to us, and if we want to go into them as well. But these are pretty simple dashboards. We try to show as much meaningful data as we possibly can. We try to update these dashboards as soon as new data comes in, and I hope this is useful for you if you want to invest in the long term, if you want to build long-term plays. This is a useful tool to understand, to have, to work with. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video.